Greetings, comrades. I am Admiral Andre. Before we begin today's episode of Kerbal Space Program, let's just have a look at this website, Stuff in Space. You might be familiar with this already if you are a space enthusiast, which I assume you are if you're watching this video. The reason I'm bringing this up is because in the last episode we started with our orbital flights for the first time. And as I said before in the addendum episode, I want us to avoid space debris as much as possible. It's impossible to always avoid every piece of space debris, but this is the current situation here on Earth, or above Earth more accurately. So this website shows you basically all of the trackable objects that we can see here. So let's take a few examples. Any of them. See, there's one, there was another one that I found. There's the Titan 3C trans stage, and this was launched in 1969, and it's still out there, you know. You can then, of course, track what this was for by just using the international designator and going to that NY or N2YO website that I showed you before. You just put the A instead of the F to find the payload. But yes, it's looking kind of crazy. You can see the Starlinks here all lined up. That's one set of them. There's a few of those little trains happening there. There's another set. There's another one passing over Madagascar right now. Another one here and here and here and here. And if we want to find the space station, it actually just recently passed over South Africa. We just have to have, let's see if I can find it without searching for it first. It might already be a bit further away. Let's just search for it. You just search for Zarya, of course. There it is. That's the first module, of course, of the space station. So that's where it is right now. It's already passed way over Madagascar. It's on the way to India at the moment. But now you can see it has to pass through this whole cloud surrounding the Earth. It's really interesting. You can spend quite a bit of time looking at all of this. If I just remove this again, you can see clearly the geostationary bands here, the geosynchronous bands around the Earth, and why it's so important to protect these very limited spaces, slots here. You can see there again, everything has to be managed quite carefully to avoid collisions and further debris. So yes, of course, this doesn't show us anything beyond the Earth in interplanetary space, but still, there's the trans stage again. Let's see if we find anything. There's a Falcon 9 stage. If we click on that, this was launched in 2015. It was the 7th launch of that year. And this is the, obviously again, the upper stage, the trans stage there. We can actually find out more. If I take an example, we're just going to select that part there. Right, there we go. N2YO. Of course, this is also live tracking everything. Now we just put this in here and put the A there for the payload, so we can see what this was for. And this was for Discover for NOAA, of course, from the US there, as the Falcon 9 would suggest anyway. The launch site was the Eastern Test Range, United States, International Code, all of those things you find there. So the Falcon 9 was used for that. That's the rocket body, of course. Apogee, perigee, inclination. So actually, if we want to find the payload, let's just select the name here. So that was 2015 007B. Let's see if we can find anything. Nope, it's not going to bring it up there. What about if we just use the code? Maybe it wasn't meant for... Let's see, it's a deep space observatory located at the L1 Lagrange point. So that's probably why it doesn't show it here. It's only things that are, you know, just beyond geostationary orbit, so it's not going to show much further than this. But still, its focus is really just to show us the craziness that's happening here. So yes, it's a good practice to avoid this in real life and of course in Kerbal Space Program. There's a lot of Breeze M's here, of course, from Russia. Cosmos. Anyway, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but you can have a look at this website, Stuff in Space, and then it shows you, of course, the current view. You can also see then what's happening above where you might live. Anyway, get back to the game, comrades. Right, actually, before we get back into the game, it is already loaded there. I just want to show you the calendar again. I've been noting everything down as I always do now. So we are in the 3rd week of the 2nd month. That was the Nova 3 launch right there. If we look at the days, we can also see it's very nicely spaced out again. Nova 3 was the Wednesday there, the Mo Day, of course, of the 3rd week of the 2nd month. Now, I guess we again are just going to skip to maybe 2 weeks from now, maybe the 73rd day or so, roughly, just so we give everyone a chance to recover and to plan our next move there. So I'll speed us up to day 73 and then we go from there. Right, before we jump in, actually I've moved us now to day 73. I again updated the crew roster here, so Jebediah now has an orbital type launch under his belt, and the orbiting or the outer space object index has also been updated. So there's 0001-001A, and that's of course Nova 3 Pup Mars. It was for our space agency, of course, but it was also for the Kerbal World's First Record Keeping Society, because they were the ones who set the contract for us. The launch date, it was recovered, it was on the same day. The purpose was the development of spaceflight techniques and technology. I copied this from the real world Gemini descriptions on the UNUSA site. And then of course for us it's just the remarks that it's the first crewed orbital vehicle. Right, so we have to keep this going. Now we can go into the game. Right, here we are. It's day 73. Let's see if any other interesting contracts have appeared for us. Conduct temperature surveys. I don't want to do these yet because this again you have to fly to these very specific sites. There's now an orbital request here for a VIP. I'm not sure. We don't want to do that yet. Hammer. I think actually at this point, good grief. What? This is a strange mission. Test the skipper on the moon. Landed at the moon. No, that's a little insane. We still have this one of exploring the moon, which is literally just flying by the moon. So, no, we're not doing that one yet. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is catching up on our science a little bit. We have 11.8 left from last time. The important goal now is this one, because I need the probe core, the Stay Putnik, as well as the extra science. So I think we're going to be building some very basic sounding rockets and just seeing if there's any additional science that we need to get. Actually, we can just leave and go back to the R&D. And the archives, which I don't visit enough. And if we just have a look here, so in space we've only done a crew report. This is actually quite handy to have a look at. Flying high, we've done the temperature scan, the mystery goo, the crew report, and the atmospheric pressure. I think that's all we can do at the moment. Flying low, what are we missing here? Crew report. That's interesting. So that's something I have to do. I should actually be writing this down, but I'll just try to remember. We have to do a crew report flying low. And surface landed, we've basically done things in various biomes now. So this will just have to carry on. But this is more once we have airplanes. Then we can fly to different biomes. Right, so that's basically all. We just have to start focusing more on space. So, of course, we still have to do crewed missions at this time. I'm just thinking now, It's really only the same thing still. So what we could do at this point is literally load up the Nova 3 and put some science on it, and then give Valentina some experience as well. That's probably not a bad idea. I wonder if we should even... yeah, but now I should put a module up on this thing. I'm wondering. Let's tweak this a little bit, because this is a science mission here. Now, as we saw before, I'm not sure if the parachute is enough for both of these things. Actually, let's rotate this a little. And of course, move this. Then I have to increase the ablator again, just to give us enough mass on the bottom here. See, it is more on the bottom side, so it should be stable during re-entry. Now I think if we put the equipment in here, it makes more sense than just slapping it around on the sides. So let's put 2 of the mystery goo containers there. It shouldn't overheat there, it's not poking through. 2 thermometers perhaps, and 2 barometers. Should we add anything else? Perhaps an antenna again? Now we should turn that off. There, do the old trick to more or less get it into the middle there. And finally, do we have any power? We have no power options yet, so really transmitting anything is not that much of an option at this stage. Spacewalks are also off limits. Now I'm just thinking, how much does this weigh? 1.4 tons. The parachutes should be able to handle that. So let's just close that and then use this as it was before, just with a small addition there. Now I also classified this booster and upper stage combination, which is of course the pulsar meteor. I'm thinking of comet, but the pulsar meteor, as a small lift launch vehicle, so maximum of 2 tons to low Kerbal orbit, and it is roughly that, as we saw now. Of course the upper stage is actually still attached during the operational phase, but of course it's needed for re-entry again, so I'm not really counting that as part of the payload. So in this case, otherwise we keep it exactly the same. We just name this one Nova 4, and I have to remember to get a crew report flying low, and the name for this mission is going to be Comrade Vivix Plays. Of course, a good one here. We've done the collaboration in Phasmophobia, and we should again. So this one belongs to Comrade Vivix. Right, so let's hope this one goes well. I just have to clear this milestone as well. We have returned to the surface from orbit, so of course a huge achievement there. I think the rest still stays the same. We should just double check everything. I think it looks good. And then Valentina is up for getting her star now. Right, again we'll launch from the desert. Now it's still night there, but I think we can do that. We're getting a bit more confident now with our launches. Actually, it's just dawn here, but what's going on with the shadow? Is there an eclipse happening? Let's find out. No eclipse? That's odd. That is most peculiar. I guess it's just normal cloud shadows. But why it would sit like that, I don't know. Well, there are clouds there, so I guess we'll accept it as that. Right, just take us back home again. And yes, it does make sense then in that case. Very cloudy here then in the desert. I've never seen it like this before, but hopefully it's a good omen then. Right, I think we will just have a look again at the universal time. So we will launch at 12:30, technically 12:30 midnight here. Of course, this is again not the location of universal time. I think universal time, actually we should try and figure this out at some point. Where on the planet is the time that correlates with that? So it's just after midnight, so I guess it would be somewhere here. Interesting. Like Greenwich basically. Now let's skip forward and then do this launch. Standard profile. Right, 5 minutes. Okay, now this is the last minute countdown. Let's check everything again. 30 seconds. Once again, if there's an accident here, that's how it is. We cannot revert now. 40 seconds. Just have to remember the crew report low. Right, are we ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and liftoff. There we go. Right, this is Nova 4, Vivix Plays, and I have to get a crew report right away. Keep that, and I can now close this. We don't need any of the other instruments here. Those are all going to be applied in space. And the clouds are gone again. Well, I guess they've moved on now. Anyway, see you in orbit, comrades. Right, comrades, we've lost contact with the desert launch site just now because of the antenna, of course, giving us extra range. This one worked out really well. It's just about 100 kilometers, so once we get a bit closer to the apoapse, we can... hey, there's another thing we can do, but of course I can't do EVAs now. I just open up the X-Science again so we can do all of the various tests here. This is actually again much easier. I don't have to open up the equipment bay there. I can just keep the experiment, do the scan, keep the experiment, and do the goo observation, keep the experiment. So I think we can actually just leave this open, to be honest. It's probably a good idea. Just anytime we need it. Of course, the problem with this is every time you pass over a new biome, it will also warn you, but we can't get out of the capsule yet to actually get a spacewalk EVA yet, especially a report there. Anyway, let's just fast forward a little bit to, I guess around here. And then throttle up. 3, 2, 1, ignition. And we're doing 2 Gs there, which again is a little, just have to moderate that just a little bit there. I also turn, of course, the wheel authority down, and the capsule faces down so that, of course, Valentina can actually see something. And 109 by 100 with 217 meters per second left. Now I'm wondering if we can actually raise our orbit here a little bit to get some extra readings from high over Kerbal, which is of course still for us medium orbit, but for science purposes, as we discussed, it still counts as high orbit. I think we can actually do that. How are we looking on power? Just fine. We can't do any maneuver nodes yet. The space debris will re-enter here, so I'm not including that in the OSO index because it's not an orbital object, so the capsule here will be the next one. So I guess we just burn prograde at this stage so that Valentina becomes the record holder of the highest orbit over Kerbal, which is of course still only the second one. Now what was it again? 250 I think? So let's see if we can aim above that. We don't have to go into an orbit there. There. And once we're there, we take the readings, then we get lower again. So I don't have to circularize the orbit. Right, so Valentina can now enjoy herself, and we will just speed up a little. And yes, you see it drops you out of warp because of this. I just think we can probably turn this off for now. Alert will sound time warp, or maybe just say time warp won't be stopped. Because, of course, for Mystery Goo and all that, it's all the same. Low orbit and high orbit. But for EVA reports, these various biomes matter. We've lost contact again with the main space center. And we are now high over Kerbal. Valentina becomes the first, so let's just turn the cabin light on. Also have a little look inside. She's still doing well. And we can't do the crew report, and I can't transfer it to any container yet. So we might try and transmit this. Let's just think about this. Of course I can't actually transmit it because we're not in contact. So I guess we'll just keep it as it is for now. Let us take another temperature scan. It's just complaining here how difficult it is to actually measure temperature. We'll do the other atmospheric scan. It's 0 as if in a vacuum. And the Mystery Goo. The ghoul feels right at home here, so that's all of our experiments done. That's why I brought 2 of each. And I think that's basically all. Now we can do the retro burn again from this location. We don't even have to maneuver the craft. Let's say around 27. That's what I usually aim for. There, that'll be a nice gentle re-entry. Now we'll just see if we get contact with any of the other, perhaps this one up here, the Boomerang site. But it's too late anyway, we're out of high space now. And the transmitters at these extra launch sites is very weak compared to the main one, of course, because that's where the tracking station is. Right, almost ready to re-enter, and I will just separate now, and we will just get the craft pointing in the right direction, just orient ourselves correctly here. Free camera again, and turn the SAS off. Then we'll see how stable it is. I can also take this one away now. See you on the ground, comrades. And an excellent mission. Perfect, everything went exactly as planned. So it was exactly 45 minutes mission, which I think was almost precisely what Jebediah's mission was last time. I think it was 44 minutes if I'm not mistaken. And we end up right here in the semi-desert area, so they can come and pick her up from the desert launch site, which is of course really the desert launch site, but anyway, let's recover the vessel. And 80.2 science, it was definitely worth it. Then the parts, we had 4,176 back, so again using my system of adding 3 zeros, it's 4.1 million back. And Valentina is a 1-star pilot as well, and of course our reputation is growing. So Valentina gets additional ribbons here, the research 3 ribbon, 100 or more science points, and the Kerbal orbit one as well. Fantastic, so it was a great success. Let's go into our, well, the sun has just set now. Let's go into the research and development department and just spend our points. First of all, I want the basic science because we can get the science junior and of course the experiment storage unit. The antenna is actually useful. I'll put this up at the desert site and the Boomerang site just to give us extra coverage, and we can of course use that on our craft as well. The radiators are also nice to have, and the batteries, so research that. Then we still have enough for one more of these. I think, let's just see, what does this one offer us? The flags for the first time, that's not a bad idea, and the launch clamps. The crew cabin, adapters, more decouplers. The struts, excellent. That's very important as well. But I think we might go for planes. Of course, we can't build much of a plane yet, but I think let's get started on that. So please research that for me. Aviation. The art and science of keeping heavier than air objects aloft for extended periods of time. What was this one here? We're going to ask all the big questions of the universe eventually. For now, we're starting with these. I love reading all of this. Right, so now we've done that. Let's just have a look at the contracts available right now. Temperature survey. See, now we can begin to think about things like this, but this is above 17 and 19 kilometers. That's a bit tough for a very early plane to achieve. VIP was orbit again. The tourists want to orbit, and of course suborbit, which is automatic then. Mark 16 parachute. Again, these very specific parameters are quite difficult. There's another atmospheric one. This is easy. It's below 16 kilometers, but of course it depends where that zone is. Landed at the moon, forget about it. But this would be an interesting thing to get, but it's not the right time for this. Of course it will last over a year for us to do this, but I don't know. We'll get access to the skipper in a manner of speaking anyway. We could do the flyby and a test landing with this, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But it's an interesting offer. It's possibly an offer I can't refuse. Tested, landed at the moon. The spark in flight again. We might take the temperature one. I'm not sure how exactly we'll do that, but let's actually go and look at where these sites are. Right, so one of them, this was the below, so we're going to have to actually travel quite a distance to get to that. The others are near to the island airfield, but again, getting up there is the challenge. We could do a rocket launch, I guess, as well. By the way, the other thing is we have to have a storyline in a sense now. Again, I like to justify things. Because of all of the VIP and tourist missions that we've done before, of course we got a lot of fame from that. And we had the various VIPs from the companies, and they lobbied the government as well. The planetary government here. And they have leased us this island with the airfield on it. Not the other islands there, just that one. So now we have another site that we can use for our whatever purposes we might have. Of course, we have the desert one. That was one that we started off with. And then, of course, the Boomerang one as well, which they are all basically then leasing to us. But really, we're getting the island airfield as well. But of course, we have to keep in mind we can't really launch retrograde from the KSC here, because dropping stages on populated areas is very frowned upon. Just ask China. Of course, it's different in the desert. That's why we're doing the initial tests in the desert here. So I guess for a retrograde launch, we'll have to use either Boomerang. It's still kind of green here, obviously, but it just goes over the mountains. Then we are at the sea here. Or we'll have to just use the desert, but then drop whatever stages we need to drop before we get to this kind of prairie green area there. In this case, we can't do it unless we go around, but this is more suited for going to the east and, of course, polar orbits, but only to the south. We can't launch north because that's overpopulated areas. So we'll say all the green areas are populated. Basically, that's the easy way of saying it. No one really lives in the desert, at least on Kerbal, we'll say. Or on the poles, of course. Now, let's see. I think in any case, before we start building a plane, let's just advance time again. So, to the next week. So, what would that be? +6 now. So, actually, I should just have a look, and we'll not always do it on a Monday. So let's say it's on the Monday, which would be the 80th day. So we'll just speed up time again. Hold on to your hats. Not too fast. Alright, it's the 80th day. Now it's still night here, so it doesn't really matter. We'll just do the planning phase of this. So now we go into the spaceplane hangar for the very first time. And we will ask C7 Aerospace Division to make us a basic Mark I cockpit. Purchase that and apply it here. Very snazzy. Right, now of course we don't have passenger modules yet, so this will have to be done with only one Kerbal. Then the next step is, we didn't actually take those contracts, but I want to make this again a kind of airplane that we can use for many different kinds of contracts. So we have to have an experiment bay on here. So that's obviously a must. Then fuel, but I think we do not have the, actually we do have the big fuel storage, the fuselage is here. Again, we'll ask C7 Aerospace to develop us one of those, and that is of course very useful. Then I don't think we have any tail segments, do we? No, we do actually, the connector A, so we'll ask Winter Owl, our subsidiary here, to develop that. And as I like to do for this kind of tail, we'll just level it until we get the B variant. Now, of course, getting that just right is not always the easiest thing. But that looks pretty decent. Then of course I'll just move it forward there a little bit, till it lines up on the bottom there. Right, so that's the basic structure of the fuselage. Now we'll have to decide about the wings, but the landing legs we obviously don't have much choice. Let's just have a look. So what can we do? What's our plan here? The basic Juno jet engines, that's what we're going to use. I think we might even use 4 of those, or 3, I don't know, something a bit unconventional. But I also want us to have the option of strapping maybe a solid or a liquid booster somewhere onto this thing to reach high altitudes. Of course we don't have the engines that can really, the one that switches between air and rocket modes, but we can figure something out here. So I'm going to build this one away from camera so you don't have to sit through the painful process. I'll just speed it up, I think, and then I'll be back with you in a moment. Right, comrades, welcome back. I think I went a little overboard. I don't know what I was doing here. I just wanted to do something different. So I started from the top and then attached the wings onto that. Now, of course, the problem with this design is we have no room for any other parts. We're at the part limit. So we can't actually attach any science to that. But I'm actually a bit curious to see if this contraption can fly at all. Now, when we bring it out onto the runway, it should still be able, of course it will be severely angled upwards in the front, but it should be able to maneuver there. Nothing should be scraping onto the ground, but I guess we'll see. It's just an experiment. So I'm going to just save this as the X1 just for now. This is just an experiment still. And actually, let's just go back out again. I think we are on day 80 now. Just want to see what the time is. In the desert specifically. Is it daytime there? Yes, it is. It's perfect. So we'll do the same thing again. We'll do it from the desert. All of that from our main launch site now, which is still the desert. And then eventually we'll move over to the main construction area. The main space center, which is still being built, we'll argue. Now this is just a test, that's why I just call it the X1. This is not doing any missions yet, so let's just see if it works before we commit to anything. And it's probably a dumb idea. There's no parachutes, there's no safety backups at all, so it's possible, of course, that Jeb is gonna die here if he's still the pilot. Yes, he is. Oh, that's the... What's making that noise? Could be the scraping in the front there. It's from the sound overall mod. Let's just launch this thing and see if it will work. This is a bad idea. Yes, it's scraping somewhere. Oh, this is never... Oh, okay, stop. We had a bit of a mishap there. No, let's say our early experiments into aviation did not work out. I won't push it any further. I don't want to lose our pilot or any Kerbal. So let's recover this thing and just make a few changes to it to make it more of a reasonable craft. Right, so it's just recovered there. Then we'll of course ask Valentina to do the first proper flight. Yeah, so this was just a bit over the top. In any case, I think we can skip this whole center stage there, because the fuel that we have is carried in the smaller tanks there attached to the engine. The engine still needs something to attach to, and that's basically the only thing we have. So that's enough fuel for us anyway. It's a very odd craft still, obviously, but that's just a little bit more reasonable, I think. There, now it's probably going to look quite strange inside. Yes, it's sticking through there quite aggressively, but there's still open space to put all the experiments there that we need to. So functionally it still works. I might just move it a little, little bit out still. Just a little, so there's no real gaps there. Now we will attach the wings, so obviously we've been developing these with C7, and so that's how we got these, and of course the landing gear as well. Now the problem is, if I put it here, of course the pilot can't get out, so it has to actually be at the top then. So I have to take this out, rotate it back to normal, and then just change this up again. I think again I'll speed up, comrades. You don't have to sit through this, but you can still see it. Right, that's a bit better. 19 parts out of 30. Now this is again just a very basic 2 jet engines, and that's all. So this is not going up to high altitude. So this is just again the very basic. Now I just might move this. Oh dear, not like that. Undo. Move that a little bit down so it just looks a little bit nicer. There. That'll do. So I'll save this again as the X1, just so we can go and see if there's any contracts to do with this at the moment. Anything worthwhile, really. Tourists, there's temperature surveys. They are all below 19 kilometers, so it can be anything from the ground up. So this is a good one to do. It's a lot of money as well. VIP. I might do some of these VIPs in another episode where it's not narrated, where we just use the old rocket again for suborbital ones. Data from space around Kerbal. This is a good one. Kerbal motion. They want us to do that. Tourists. The skipper again. The moon one is gone now. This one is just orbiting it. But no. I don't think so. Maybe we could do that actually. If I use the probe, the Staputnik, and somehow we attach that to the skipper thing, but of course you can't fire it. You have to only activate it or test it at that specific altitude. So we'll have to take it all the way up there. How much does a skipper weigh? That's a good question now. I don't know. Let's see if we can find out. The other one is just tourists again. So I'm going to take the temperature ones after. Again, we have to be prudent. One of our rules is we can't take a contract if we're not confident that we can do it. Yes, Stratco. So this is all near the space center. So we'll do the aircraft launch from here. That's fine. That's not a problem. Actually, I should take the contract first. Then the other thing is I just want to see how much does a skipper weigh. I don't think we can see it yet. It's obviously not going to appear here. No. So we have to look at it in the R&D. That should show us. Yes, skipper is 3 tons. Now we don't have anything that can take 3 tons to low Kerbal orbit yet. And even if I try to slap solid boosters onto our pulsar meteor, it's going to be overweight. So the weight limits are still there. I'm not going to upgrade the launch pad yet. So we will not take that one. It's not prudent to do that. But we'll be happy to do that in the future. So, hey, it's actually a misclick, but let's see if there's anyone here. Kerner Kerman. Very courageous, but very stupid as well. No, it's really expensive to hire new crew members at this point. So we'll just take the Stratco one and accept that contract. And then, of course, now we can just speed up until it's daytime again. That also gives our engineers a little bit of time to build a new plane. Maybe we'll skip a few days ahead. Let's say 2 days. Let's just wait for the day. 4:13. There we go. 4:13 the sun rises, so it's day 82 now. So we are going to complete this contract, and for that again I'll just put music on like a normal launch so I don't have to babble the whole time. But we'll open our X1 and its temperature surveys, right? Yes. So in this case I'll open that and just put 3 different temperature thermometer 2 hot thermometers in here. Now the rule is also anytime that we are paid to gather data like this, usually what you do is you just gather, let's say you've done this before like we have here. We already have taken temperature readings in the atmosphere low over Kerbal. But so in this case it won't give us any more data, but then usually you just re-click and reset it and so on. You don't really do the contract per se. But in this case we have to bring back the data. Even if it's not worth anything to us in terms of science, we are being paid to do this. So we have to bring back the data. We can't just use one thermometer and reset it the whole time. Even though the contracts work like that. Do we need... maybe no, we're not going to transmit anything, and we'll generate power through the engine. So that's all that we need, although I want this on action groups, since we have action groups anyway. But now is it going to do it separately? I think so. Let's remove them all from symmetry. Okay, that one is obviously then removed. That's also a useful trick. If you ever want 5 or 7 symmetry, you just go one higher to 6 or 8 and then remove one from symmetry and then slightly move the boosters. Then you'll get 7 or 5 symmetry. We'll probably do that at some point, but that's just a trick for you there. Let's say log that one is 1, so 2 is the second one, and 3 is the third one. Right, now of course we still need an abort. We need to be able to yes, we're not going to be opening this, so we won't see that up there. We need a safety measure here, so we have to put a parachute on this thing, especially since we still can. It weighs 3.5 tons, so it's not going to be a soft landing, but this cabin here can take 40 meters per second impact. Now anything that's in a 40 meters per second impact vehicle is liquefied in real life basically, but in this case we can do it. We'll say it's of course full of shock absorbers, but I just need something that will protect our Kerbals in the case of a disaster, and it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So on the abort, that is going to be deploy the chute. I can do it manually of course as well. And now a name for this vehicle, as primitive as it is. I will go into our database and pick something, comrades. And I think also in this case, because we reuse it, I'll just give it, well, we'll still, we might give it an individual name actually, and if this craft, this airplane is destroyed, then we make a new name for it, even the class. Now we need a class name, and of course the comrade name is the actual aircraft's name, so never mind, I'll just go pick a name. Right comrades, this will be known as the Skylark class of aircraft, so this is just the Skylark. In the future of course, I don't think we'll name, let's say we make modifications to this, should it be then a Skylark? I guess we'll use the same method that we do with our normal rockets as well, so in that case it's a 1A, and then very appropriately the comrade name is Skywalker Kid 260, so Skylark Skywalker, there you go, it's all coming together. So we'll save this and then launch it from the normal runway, which is of course very auspicious. Alright, it's just about sunrise, just activate the brakes here, and the sounds are going a little haywire. We are going to take off at 4:30, so we'll do the same thing that we do for our normal missions. And again, there's no revert, let's hope the power doesn't run out. We have to land or use the parachute, there is no other way. We have Jeb again, but I guess he... oh dear, we've overshot the time, so we'll go to the next window, which is 5 o'clock. That's fine, this happens in real life. And he's sitting there all day just waiting, but that's how it goes, I guess. We had a technical issue. And alright, we're getting close to 60 seconds. The sound mod is a little confused by the springs, I guess. It sounds like it's hitting the ground all the time. Right, we are getting the throttle tests and all of that, and we'll just speed up so we don't have to hear that. It sounds great when you're landing, then you hear this, but you shouldn't be hearing it at this point. Alright. Here we go, comrades. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have clearance to take off, comrade Jeb. And we can activate the first navigation beacon, which is great with a mod here, the Waypoint Manager, so we can actually see where it is. And there's a problem. Oh dear. There is a problem, but we might still be able to achieve our mission. We lost one of our flaps here, but that's only for the roll control. Jeb is confident he can continue the mission and complete it. We just have to not oversteer like this. So I'm going to... this should be... yes, only the roll is activated, but I'll reduce the authority limiter, and the same with the wheel authority here. Oh, we lost the other fin as well. Oh well, we can do it. Now, in this case, it'll take about a minute to get there, which is why I also love this mod. We don't have to go all the way up, we can just stay at this altitude. I will speed up until I see you again, comrades. Let's put on some music. Right, comrades, mission completed. Now we get to go home. So, well, we've traveled quite a distance and the plane is surprisingly stable for missing half of its control surfaces. Of course, I have to use the trim controls a little to help me here. Anyway, I think Jeb is probably very happy that he has such a considerate space program director who included a parachute on his plane, because otherwise I think he would be in trouble. Anyway, yes, a bit rough here with the G-forces, but I will see you back at the Space Center. Right, we're approaching, comrades, and by the way, the story for the Space Center here is, of course, you can see it looks very artificial, this whole coastline area there. Of course, it wasn't originally like that, but this whole area was flattened out to produce a nice even terrain for the new Space Center. And while they were excavating there and flattening this area out, they of course discovered the monolith there. So that's why they put it up there in the corner. Nobody knows what it is, but that also helps to just explain why this area looks the way it does, so flattened out. I like it to make sense, right? Now the good question is, are we going to attempt a landing or are we just going to abort? Because if we do get on the ground and we still have a high speed on us, and we saw how unstable the wheels were, then we might just flip over and explode. So I'm not sure if I want to take that risk. Well, at least Jeb becomes the first to take a space plane, well, a space agency aircraft out for a spin and reaches almost 10 kilometers. Let's see if we can get him to reach 10 kilometers. The other rule, oh yes, by the way, overpopulated areas, as we've said, the green areas, we can't go hypersonic or supersonic at least. Our sonic booms must be over the ocean where possible, or the desert of course, or it must be above, what would be a good distance, 5 kilometers? Or is that still a bit dangerous? I'm not sure, but we have to be very cautious with that. Of course this is a subsonic plane, but anyway, we've reached 10 kilometers. We'll cut the engine here, and now we'll prepare our landing approach. I'm very tempted to press F5, but I'm not allowed to do that. So I think we'll just do a swoop here and then fire the parachute and hope for the best. Let's not kill Jeb with G-forces. Yes, I'm not even going to try. If we make contact with that runway, and I think it's anyway a bit uneven, then we are dead. So let's rather... I know we're a bit speeding too much here. The goal is just to kind of turn our way here. And then of course gain a bit of altitude and slow down. And once we're roughly over the runway, activate the parachute. Actually, let's just try and line up with the runway anyway. Then we'll activate the parachute just before we land to slow us down. So it's not just a pure cop-out and using a parachute. Now we're still overspeeding here. Sorry Jeb, I hope you're gonna make it out of this one. Do it. I was spinning too much. Thank goodness for foresight. We are back safely. We didn't even lose any more parts. And yes, Jeb is very happy. He's not showing it, but he's very happy that he has a considerate director. So we'll recover this one and collect our prize money. And Jeb has shown again why he is the brave Kerbal. Of course, Valentina as well. And 11 science, so we got a little bit out of that. And of course, it's mostly just because we... yes, we did these readings for the client, but we also got something out of it. Then 10,000 funds, so we got 100% of the value back. So there was value in landing on the runway or aborting on the runway. And then, of course, no XP. So Jeb gets the Research 2 ribbon and the Multiple Contracts ribbon. So 5 or more contracts, and of course he should get the aircraft ribbon as well, but I guess that's not a thing yet. And we'll just go through all of this. So 8,800, 8,800. I love the names as well. Nelson Sanity 8,800, and then the big one 55,650 plus 9. Renown, indispensable. Thank you. Right, so that's it for this episode, comrades. I do hope you have enjoyed, and I should ask more. I know I don't, but I also feel that people will subscribe if they feel it's worth it. But if you do feel it's worth it, do consider subscribing. And I'll see you next time again, next week at the very latest. But I also want to do more Phasmophobia videos. I know we still have to get back to the city skylines as well. And eventually, one day, back to the Subnautica. I want to still finish that series and then go on to the new one. I haven't played the full release yet, and I will wait for playing Below Zero once we've finished our main campaign. But those things will happen in the fullness of time, as they say. So the mainstay, of course, now is KSP every week, at least once a week. And then we'll add others as well. So I think I'll do another episode of Phasmophobia and City Skylines in the next week, if all goes well. So I will see you soon again, comrades. Have a great day as always. And it looks like, by the way, we're getting a new update for KSP around the 10-year anniversary. So that shows we'll get new solar panels. I can also get rid of the docking alignment mod because we can rotate the docking ports. And what else was there? There was the solar panels, there was that. And of course the overhauls for Pol and Elu. And I don't think there was anything else. I might be wrong. Anyway, we'll get new things, but in any case, I think we'll revisit the oldest version of KSP on the anniversary date, but that's still a ways away. So see you soon, comrades. Have a great day.